Once you've got these good questions, the question is how you use it. And of course, what researchers call IRE is what they see most of the time: initiation, response, evaluation. It's been called the standard classroom transaction model. That's what researchers see all the time. So I ask a question, students respond, I evaluate their response. I call it serial table tennis. Dunk, 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 dunk. Everything coming back to the teacher. Some of the teachers we've been working with do what they call basketball rather than table tennis. They ask one kid a question, they ask a second kid whether they think the answer is correct or incorrect, and they pick on a third kid for an explanation. So that the locus goes round the room like basketball rather than always coming back to the teacher. What's implicit in this is this idea of no hands up. This is kind of weird. I'm going to ask you to raise your hands if you don't allow students to raise their hands in classroom. Okay? So who uses no hands up in their classroom? Who uses no hands up at least 80% of the time? Okay, thank you. That's got to change. I think that there's a very good case of making no hands up the standard operating procedure for every single classroom in K through 12. Here's why. When you ask a class a question and you're allowing kids to volunteer, you are creating two classrooms in the same classroom. In one of those classrooms, there are students dislocating their shoulders in their eagerness to show you they have a response. And in the same classroom, there are children trying to stay below the radar. They're trying to hide. So if you are allowing kids to choose what, you're making the achievement gap worse. It's been called the Matthew effect, after the passage in, I think it's chapter 37 of Matthew, to those that have more shall be given, and from those that have nothing, what little they have will be taken away. Because where those kids are engaging in everything you're doing, those kids are getting smarter. And the other kids in the same classroom are foregoing that opportunity to get smarter. So the achievement gap grows. So no hands up except to ask a question. So any kid can raise their hand to ask a question, but if you're asking a question, you should choose. Of course, you should do it at random. What we've found is that teachers cannot do random. Because you know the pressure, don't you? You're always drawn to the kid who's going to give you a good answer just to wrap this thing up and move on. So you have to have some kind of technology to help you. You can actually get a randomizer using PowerPoint. Many interactive whiteboard software packages have one included. There's even an app for the iPhone with a randomizer. But I prefer popsicle sticks with kids' names on in a cup. It's much more flexible. For example, if a child is really irritating you, you can write their name on 10 additional sticks and put it in the mix. One teacher's got she got a can within a can, a special place for sticking a stick back so you can get it back again. I saw one kid's name come up 4 times in a 45-minute lesson, and he just thought he was having a really unlucky day. People will use this with kindergarten, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. Not so sure about middle school. I've seen it work great in AP Calculus. Because if you pick on an AP Calculus kid at random, the first thing that's going to go through their mind is, why are you picking on me? Well, with the popsicle sticks, it's your unlucky day. Deal with it. Now, what's the answer to my question? Gets rid of all that kind of stuff. Everybody's engaged. Of course, the kids will resist. When you pick on a kid at random, they say, don't know. And what's crucial then is how you react to that. Because if you then say, okay, ask a different kid, the kid has just won, haven't they? You said, I want everyone to think. The kid says, I don't want to think. You say, that's okay. So much smarter response is to say, okay, I'll come back to you. And get 2 or 3 different answers. And then come back to that kid and say, now which of those answers do you like best? So that kid knows they need to be listening to other people's answers because there's a lifeline out there somewhere. Now that works great if it's an opinion question or you can have different answers. There are some kinds of questions that only has one answer. I'm going to pick on Tammy. Tammy, what's the valence of carbon? Okay. Anybody know? What's the valence of carbon? 4. Tammy? Tammy, what's the valence of carbon? 4. Thank you. Now, I haven't taught anything here. I have no faith that Tammy will remember what the valence of carbon is tomorrow. But I have established a very important principle that in this classroom, there is no opt-out. That's what Doug Lamothe calls no opt-out. The idea is that I'm going to give you whatever help you need to get over this fence, even if it's lifting you over it, but you are going to get over the fence. And that idea of no opt-out, you are going to give me an answer, even if it's just repeating an answer that somebody else has told you, creates a very important principle in the classroom, which is that there's no opt-out. So this, what Doug Moff calls cold calling kids, you don't get called on or not, and no opt-out, I think makes for much more engaged classrooms. And of course, you're hearing from kids you don't normally hear from, so you're getting far higher quality information. The other response you can use, if you're sure that the kid is just saying don't know because they can't be bothered to think, is yes, but if you did know, what would you say? And it's amazing how often the kid will actually say, okay, I realise I've got to get engaged, and actually give you a sensible answer. Hot seat questioning is where I pick on somebody and ask them a second and a third and a fourth follow-up question to probe their thinking. Because most teachers' questioning is very shallow, just they're scattered around the room. The danger with hot seat questioning is kids will be off task over there, not if they know that my next move is going to be, right, summarise what Tammy just said. So there's other ways of keeping kids awake without sacrificing the quality of your dialogue.